can't wait to hear more about the cancer ministry. I think there's something to that.
I did too. Well, I started a course actually called Building Resilience in Your Battle Against Cancer. It's a 16-week course. So we started a support group around that material. So they're all, every week has like a 6-minute video related to a different dynamic of like praying for yourself, talking to your kids about your cancer, how to argue with your doctor, all those things that you have to deal with. And then the small group is around that topic.
That's going to be so good, Pete.
Yeah. So we did our first session. We're on week 13 of 15, and it's been so good. In fact, they're all saying, how are we going to stop this?
Right.
We want to stay going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of them and we're going to make them co-leaders.
Right.
And then
hopefully,
hopefully. Yeah. All right. Hey, thank you for joining us for another Sidewalk Conversations. I'm Pete Van Ward, and I am delighted that you're here. And before I introduce my guest, I just want to say a thank you to our sponsor today, which is Sidewalk Conversations, the foundation. So we have a number of people who actually contribute to this foundation, and they make this program and many of the things that are associated with it possible. So I just want to say a shout out to the regular contributors to the foundation. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. You make this possible. Now, I want to introduce a good friend of mine, Chris Tapken. Welcome.
Yeah, I've been looking so forward to this, man. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, I love it. So I got to introduce Chris this way. So before we get into your story, I just want to talk about how meaningful the prayer barn has been to me personally.
Thank you.
So when I first got diagnosed with cancer, I started attending the prayer barn mostly because I knew Candy and I loved her worship style. But the people there, your ministry, the prayers that have been prayed, and you may remember, but I've brought a number of friends from around the country. Who continue to ask me, "Oh, how's that prayer barn thing going?" I'm like, when I'm in town, I go
day by day.
And so I just want to say a personal thank you for what you do there. And I know it helps a lot of people, but we'll get more into that in a minute. So let's go back and talk a little bit about your story, where you grew up, kind of what were your early influences, and maybe even some threads from when you were young that has kind of materialized now later in life.
I grew up in a small town. You know something about small towns.
Yes, I do.
Yankton, South Dakota is my hometown.
South Dakota,
which is a small town on the Missouri River, Nebraska, South Dakota border. So, that was small towns, I think, really shape you, Pete.
Yeah, they do.
My whole family was there, cousins, grandparents. So we were a tight-knit group in a small town, and you look back at your roots. Small town shaped me. And I'm really grateful for that.
And outside of the idea of community, was there something specific that happened in your growing up years that you kind of look back at that was part of the thread that led you to where you are today?
I think it's family.
Really?
Just being my family. Growing up same town as grandparents, walking over to my grandparents' house, cousins would stay over at each other's house. We were just involved deeply in our family, and that shaped me. And
of course, everybody was talking about your family too.
Of course. Everyone knows everyone's business in a small town. That's right.
For sure. All right, let's kind of speed up a little bit because there's so much to your story that I want to get into. Yeah. So you were headed into law school, graduated, am I right in that? You graduated from law school. You were going to be an attorney.
I was. Went to University of Nebraska undergrad, go Big Red, God's favorite football team. And
It used to be.
yeah. We're coming back. Buy stock out there. And then went to law school. I have a family full of lawyers, and so went to law school, graduated, and then was going to be a prosecutor.
Okay.
My mom's a prosecutor. My dad was a judge, and so I was going to be a prosecutor, and then got into the marketplace on a kind of a really strange right turn kind of thing, and that was an interesting part of my story too. But it's kind of the first time raised in the church too, in Yankton. Trinity Lutheran Church is my roots.
Okay.
Baptized there, confirmation, all the stuff, saved in that church. But it, Pete, when I took that job in the marketplace, is really the first time where I chased the things of the world.
All right.
I kind of was unsettled by it. No one in my group thought that was probably like a good idea. Hint number one, when everyone's silent, like, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, what, really? But it was looking back, it was kind of one of those defining things where I chased culture instead of more of my religious roots.
And how did that work for you?
That did not work well. But God over redeems.
He
really
does.
that, and that's so critical. We can, we can make messes in life, and God just cleans them up and turns them into messages, turns them into things that are useful for Him and His kingdom, and that is absolutely what happened in my life, Pete.
So you're a pastor now, though, right?
I'm a pastor now. You would have got long odds in Las Vegas. You'd have said, Chris going to be a pastor? No way. But yes.
So how did that transition happen?
So this business was really, for me, Pete, kind of my drug of choice was identity.
Okay.
I wanted people to think I was successful because of business. And so I thought about it all the time, is what I thought about when I woke up, when I went to bed, first thoughts, consuming thoughts about this business. And God put three things in my life that really got my attention. The first was I got married to an Iowa girl.
There you go.
Yeah. So my wife and I were told we couldn't have kids, so then we started this crazy in vitro process. That'll get your attention.
Yeah.
And then her and I kind of got sick at the same time, which got our attention. And then the third thing, Pete, was this business that was my identity. And I really was my purpose, so to speak, came crashing down, and we lost everything.
Oh.
Yes, it's at that point that
everything,
Pete. And people hear God in different ways.
Yeah.
I heard God in an undeniable way. And what He told me, Pete, was, I'm calling you to something. Now, these were words I had even no clue what they even meant.
Right.
I'm calling you to something, but what I'm calling you to requires such a transformation. We need to go to this place called rock bottom. And He signs off. I'm like, I've got questions.
Wait.
I got questions. And so for me, and that was over a 7-year period, we kind of went through this transformation process. But then came the day, for me, was my rock bottom that the Lord told me that we were going to. And it was, Pete, this day that I walked into federal prison in Three Rivers, Texas. Yeah. The business, we got prosecuted. I got charged for making a false statement and went to federal prison for 18 months.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm in prison, Pete. Now, this isn't the most impressive resume.
No.
Right? The Lord signs back on. 7 years from when I heard His voice the first time, I'm calling you to something. I'm in prison. Never forget it, Pete. And I'm in the chapel, I'm in the Word early in the morning by myself, and I hear that voice again saying, remember I told you I'm calling you to something? I'm calling you to ministry. I LOL'd. I'm like, no way, no. I have no pastors in our family, like nothing. Didn't go to seminary. I'm in prison.
Yeah.
Come on, Lord.
Yeah.
That was my call, Pete, to minister. Yeah.
Wow. And was it like really a 7-year period of silence? Like you were trying to figure it out, but there was not like a direct word.
No, not. I mean, we became transformed people.
Yeah.
My wife and I just fell in love with the Lord and His church, His bride, and just my faith came alive.
Yeah.
So it was an amazing period, hard period, but amazing period. But no, He did not say, "Here's what we're doing." It was a long period of, look at who you've become. Now I'm calling you to this.
So I'm a pastor as well, and I the route that I took was more like high school, mess up, get saved, go to seminary.
Yeah.
The route to prison is like
that black sheep. It's very appropriate.
I mean, so I'm guessing that churches, like if you, did you go to seminary? You end up going to seminary?
No.
Oh.
I got hired on as a church to be a pastor, and
They trusted you.
Yes, even with the offering. Yeah, I got hired on as a church, and
Did you know somebody?
I got mentored by an old Pentecostal pastor that had been 50 years, and he said, "You're not going to go to seminary.
Okay.
You're going to sit under me, and I'm going to train you on real life." And the thing that from day one, Pete, he just pounded into me. He said, "You're going to be a man of prayer. You're going to lead a praying church." And he just would not let go of that for me.
Wow.
And yeah, I owe a lot to him, mentorship. But that's who trained me up in addition to where my pastor where I work at. So
Will, yeah.
Will Davis. Yeah, that is the guy to blame that hired. But Will, I owe so much to Will. He's a pastor that really took a chance on me, and to him it wasn't any chance at all because he saw the call in my life. He's like, you're called to ministry.
Such a great guy.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah. All right. So you and so that's I mean, like when you think about prayer.
Yeah.
Most pastors will tell you, "Oh yeah, of course, prayer is an important thing."
Right.
But then they'll spend a lion's share of their time doing visitation and preaching,
donor meetings.
But one of the things that is so impressive to me about the Prayer Barn is that, like, the campus is at the highest point in Austin.
Yeah.
So the land is the highest land in Austin, and then at the highest point of your land sits the Prayer Barn, right?
Isn't that crazy?
I love
and
that.
None of it was planned. It used to, we call it a barn because it used to be a barn. And it used to be a farm. And when ACF bought the property, they told Will, "Do you realize," they had the geography and all that, "Do you realize this is the highest point in Austin?" No clue.
Okay.
And then on the highest point, as you said, of the highest point in Austin, it was this barn. And now it is a place of prayer. So can't make that stuff up.
No.
Can't make that stuff up.
And you do it like every day, right? I mean,
we pray. We're now 1,750 corporate prayer meetings. We pray every day. We started 6.5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Of a daily prayer meeting from 12 to 1 where we stop everything and we just pray and intercede.
Yeah.
And now we're 6.5 years into it, which is crazy. But can I go back and touch on one thing?
Yeah.
I think will be helpful is people ask me all the time, "How'd you learn to, where do you pray?" Because a lot of pastors, they weren't taught that. Seminary doesn't have a course on
no,
prayer.
sadly.
So you, and how did you get this? Do you learn how to pray? And it came from desperation. It came from my story where I had lost all other options. I had nothing else. And it was in that place, Pete, that I really learned how to pray. When you have no other options, they'll teach you to pray.
Yeah.
So,
well,
such important. And in your ministry with cancer, they get it.
Yeah.
Cancer patients get it. Like, desperation is a wonderful teacher for prayer.
So I want to just kind of tease that out a little bit because in my experience, and I'll just make it about me at this point, But in my experience, I have had seasons where I was in desperation and prayer became the focal point, and I was really serious about it. And then things start to work out, and then it kind of goes into the background of your heart and life. How have you been able to maintain the desperation vibe in prayer, even when things have now obviously worked out a lot better for you?
It's such a great question. And a lot of it is you just have to ask the Lord. He's the Holy Spirit's the one that can do that. You can't, there's a lot of days, real talk, I don't want to pray.
Well, you said that last night.
Did I really?
You said, I'm the example I don't want to be.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that comes out of my mouth, at least it's real.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's part of why I go.
Yeah. There's a lot of days that I don't want to really do the discipline of prayer, but I do want to talk to Jesus.
I love that distinction.
Yeah. And when we make prayer about a duty or a religious exercise or something I should do because I'm a Christian, that can wane. But when you make it all about Jesus, I just want to talk to him. I just want to talk to him.
I love that.
And that's called prayer.
Yeah, yeah. I felt a great conviction about prayer probably about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
About a year before my cancer diagnosis, actually. I think it was part of God's prep work, because I found myself in that same position where I realized that I was pastoring people, and I have a passion for that. I feel, gifted in that area, in communication and preaching and teaching. But my personal prayer life, like I could pray at a service.
Sure.
Like, if somebody asked me to pray over something or be at a hospital, I could do that. But when I looked at my own personal prayer life, I felt like, man, it is so shallow.
Yeah.
It's so weak. And so I felt like, man, God was going to, really take me through a process. And part of my fear was that I would have to become one of these people that got up at, early morning hours and pray for an hour. And the reason I love your distinction is because when you can kind of shift it to saying it's more than just the process of including it in your schedule.
Yeah.
It's really more about making it part of your life. And I know that sounds so cliche, but if you can get to that place where you have a conversation with the Lord through the day, and then when you have those focus times of prayer, it's just like, I like to think of it in terms of marriage. So, my wife and I will text during the day, and we'll just have a conversation that way. But then there comes the time at the end of the day where he's like, okay, so really, how was your day?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's part of what prayer meetings are. It's like that time where you stop and you say, hey, Lord, how's
yeah.
what's going on with you?
Yeah.
Is that how it works for you? I mean,
it absolutely is. That we have that time where we really shift into intercession, which is a 75-cent church word, but intercession really is, that's our prayer meeting. And that what we feel that call on us, Pete, is, I describe intercession as this: it's placing one hand on people or places or things and the other hand on God, and you're bridging that gap. For example, we prayed today at noon that there is people in our church that are so hurting, they're in such despair or hopelessness or sickness that they can't even pray.
Yeah.
Our job as intercessors is to kick in saying, God, we're going to place one hand on them and one hand on you, and we're their prayer warriors. We're their prayers.
Yeah.
We're going to bridge that gap.
I love it.
So it's a wonderful assignment, a hard assignment, but it's a really beautiful assignment. But then outside of that, to your point, pray unceasing.
Yeah. Yeah.
The word says. Well, what's that mean? To me, it's having conversations with Jesus as we go about our day.
Yeah, I love that. And so what are, like, when you think of a prayer meeting, I've been to them, so I think I know a little bit about this, what you would say, but just for those who may be listening.
Sure.
What's your thought about, like, we want to try and create this environment where intercession can happen. So you have some worship and then you move into a season of intercession. Is there something that you do in your planning that will help guide the experience, or do you just do free flowing?
Free flowing. We planning, I think, is very overrated in prayer ministries because I think the Holy Spirit has a lot to say about prayer meetings. So we learned over the course of doing this so many times that our best prayer meetings, I think, are ones where we're really just listening to the Spirit and we're agreeing with each other. And but most importantly, Pete, we're agreeing what's on His heart. And that requires people that can hear the Lord and are listening. So you'll hear a theme come up. And we try to stick with that theme of, okay, the Holy Spirit's talking to us about Israel. We're just going to stay on that theme until He's done. And it's that's the way we try to roll with that.
One of the things I've appreciated about the prayer barn is that, and I hope you know what I mean by this, but they're normal people.
Yes.
Like in prayer meetings that I've been to in other places at other times in my life, part of my resistance was that there was kind of a strangeness about it. It felt very woo-woo.
Let's call it what it is. Weird.
Yeah. So how have you navigated it so that it doesn't catch that flavor?
That is so hard to do because you're so right, Pete. And that's why most pastors resist it because it gets weird.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've tried to stay away from the weirdness as much as we possibly can. And a lot of it is we welcome people who are messy. Just come in. If you're hurting, if you're messy, just come, and that tends to keep the weirdness away. When you get normal people that are there with a real issue.
Yeah.
For example, we had a couple girls in today that they really needed God to show up for them financially, just as God is provider. Their finances were just in a wreck and a mess, and they were just as honest and open and real as you could be, just saying, we don't know what to do.
Wow.
We got bills to pay and we're financially really, really hurting. We don't know where else to go, what else to do. That tends to keep the weirdness away when you have real people that.
Well, and I think you guys model it. You and Candy do such a great job of that.
Yeah.
Like last night again, like we were just saying, it's like, hey, sometimes I don't feel like being here.
Yeah.
And I think when people are that raw and candid, it kind of gives people permission. Oh, like I don't have to have the spiritual language. I don't have to talk in that weird way.
I don't think that's Jesus.
Yeah.
When I read scripture, he was just the most attractive, went to dinners, weddings, and was just this guy that people wanted to be around.
Yes.
He didn't use this crazy language, but somehow over the years, especially in prayer ministries, Pete, it's gotten weird in a lot of places.
Yeah.
That's just the reality.
Yeah.
And so churches get scared of that.
Right.
And I don't want that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be. It really doesn't. And so we do. And I pray for that a lot just as the leader of it.
Right.
Lord, protect us.
Yeah.
Please protect us. It doesn't need to be weird. I don't want it weird. You don't want it weird. Let's not go there.
So we were talking a little bit before we went on the air about a transition that's happening in your church.
Yeah.
And so when you think about the prayer ministry moving forward, sometimes when there's a transition, that can be like a little unsettling.
Yeah.
But you were saying, hey, no, we are committed to this. We're doing this. What does the next 5-10 years look like as best you know?
So again, I owe so much to Will Davis Jr. that is a man of prayer. He's a pastor of prayer, and he really went after a praying church and tried a couple times and it didn't work out so well, but it's stuck now, and that's in his heart, and that's in our DNA as a church at Austin Christian Fellowship. And his son-in-law is our next senior pastor, Kenton Boone, and he gets installed this Sunday. And Kenton is a man of prayer.
Perfect.
And so Kenton loves the prayer barn and is in there all the time. So really, prayer ministries can't go any higher than the pastor.
No, I think that's so true. That is so true.
And so, to your point, Barna says the average U.S. pastor spends less than 4 minutes in prayer. Kind of hard to have a prayer ministry
Guilty.
If the pastor's not modeling that. So I've been blessed and fortunate where Will's just a pastor of prayer. He loves prayer. And now Kenton will follow. And so we would love, where's the next 5 years? I tell our team this all the time. If we can do what we're doing over the next 5 years, we'll be in great shape. Statistically, we're a pretty rare air, Pete. There's the experts. Most churches don't have, if you have a prayer ministry over a year in a church, corporate prayer ministry, that's a long time. It's almost never heard of to have one over 4 years long that's consistent. They're going. So we're at 6.5.
That's legitimately a prayer meeting, not talking about prayer requests.
Where you have a corporate prayer meeting and there's
prayer happening.
Going on. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So we're in pretty rare air, and that's all grace.
Yeah.
That's all God put the call on this particular church to be a house of prayer, and that to be known for that and the DNA of it. So, if we do this, keep on keeping on, I'd be extremely grateful.
Now, I want to just dig in a little bit on this prayer idea because, most people, most pastors especially, would say, a prayer is essential. We need to have a praying church. What is it that you think keeps people from actually doing it?
I think there is a great divide in Western church. Doesn't happen so much in third world. You go on the mission field, they don't have this problem, but we, in particular the U.S., we have this problem. And I'm gonna put it as plainly as I can, Pete. You'll get what I'm talking about. There is a great divide between pastors and intercessors, or people that pray in the congregation. There's a great divide. Kind of like oil and water.
Is it personality driven, you think? Or
I
is it
think
just
it's
focus?
It's intercessors get frustrated that most churches and most pastors don't value them, maybe like other ministries. They're not resourced. They're kind of like, yeah, you guys, here's your 2 chairs in the corner, go over there and you're my prayer team kind of thing. They're not, that makes, and so they get frustrated. And then it's the weird part that we talked about. Pastors are kind of like, you got a word for me? I don't know about, that sort of thing. So there's been a really big divide, I think, in the U.S. church between people of prayer, intercessors, and pastors. Will tell you that he had that for a while in his pastoring over 4 decades. And he said his greatest blessing was he became friends with the intercessors. They're like his best friends now in the church.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's where
I totally see that, though. It makes total sense to me.
Yeah. But you gotta pastors gotta kind of break through that, get past themselves, get past the weirdness, accept a word, all that kind of stuff. And what you find is the hearts get connected. When that happens in churches, oh man.
And I would say too, as a pastor who's had to kind of process some of that too, it would be great for intercessors to also start by saying, no, seriously, I am for your success.
Totally.
I don't have another agenda.
Yes.
I'm not like praying over you so that you do X, Y, and Z. If they can get to a place where like, hey, I love you, I want to follow you, I want to be on your team, and then kind of earn the trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You spot on where they just kind of start running, and the pastor's like, wait, I don't even chill out.
Yeah, I don't know you.
I don't know you, and what's his word, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that is such a great point, Pete. Intercessors need to, let me just pray, let me love on my pastor, let me encourage them, and over time.
Which is it's the same thing with any other ministry, really, when you think about it. Like, I've had youth pastors where I'm wondering, like, what's their real agenda?
Yeah.
Music leaders, so it happens in every facet of the church. But I think most of the time, and maybe it's partly conviction, pastors are probably convicted about their own prayerlessness.
They are, absolutely. And what is this person hearing from the Lord and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
So the churches that I've seen, Pete, firsthand, including our own at ACF, where there's a love and agreement and unity between pastors and intercessors, sky's the limit on that church.
Yeah.
That church is healthy and amazing.
Yeah.
But you're right. That's my sense in the U.S. church.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you were pastoring,
Yeah.
tell me how you dealt with those people of prayer. Us. I'm in both camps. I'm a pastor and intercessor.
Well, I would have to say that I was not great at it. I was one of those that was a little bit nervous. So I went to Oral Roberts University.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of weird things at ORU. And so when I left ORU and went into the ministry, I more or less kind of backed off of the whole charismatic thing and felt nervous about it. And so there were some people that, I looking back, I regret, because I knew they were sincere, but because of my own baggage, I was not really friendly with them. And it was really in this last season of my life, the last, maybe 10 years of my life, where I, had a hard departure from the church that I was pastoring for a long time, run into a cancer diagnosis. And I wouldn't call it like my low of lows, but there were a lot of complications and difficulties. And the people that were the most gracious to me, I can get emotional about this, but the people that were the most gracious to me were prayer people.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think part of it is
it's shifted.
I get it. I get it. It's when you connect with God's heart for people. That's the special sauce, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it really, I was telling those two girls that came in today for financial provision prayer, and I just said, look, this is going to be weird, but if you stick with it, it'll become not weird.
Mm-hmm.
And you've had experiences out of the prayer barn where, wait a minute, what? And then all of a sudden it becomes not so weird.
Right.
And then
right.
it becomes, that's a place where I kind of want to go.
Yes.
The people are pretty encouraging there.
Yes, yes. And we have great people, love people. Yeah. All right. So I always like to ask this as the kind of last question.
Yeah.
If you had a life message or something that kind of really serves as the true north for you, guiding principle, what is that for you?
Oh, that's awesome, Pete. And it's really easy to answer because it's not from me. The Lord gave me, I want to say 6 years ago-ish, you're going to define your ministry, and not only that, but your life, by 2 words: unhurried time. Unhurried time with me.
I love that.
And so I came back from Houston. I said, Candy, who's our worship leader in the barn, and she's my wingman, and great friend of yours too,
Mm-hmm.
and terrific worship leader, and so anointed and so powerful, and an awesome singer-songwriter.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
And I said, Candy, God gave me like 2 words. And a week later, she goes, got a song.
I've heard that song.
That's where it came from.
I got to tell you this story real quick.
Yeah.
So I was asked to speak at a men's ministry event, and I was wrestling with how to do the end of the service, and that song came to mind.
Really?
Yes. And so I had everybody just like, okay, now we're going to practice, because we were talking about like making space for God. And we're going to do this right now, not like tomorrow when you're like right now, we're going to create, because it's a little longer song.
Yes.
And so it's like, normally when you're like 3 or 4 minutes into a song, you're ready for the thing to wrap up. Yeah. But the song itself is exactly the point, right?
That's where it came from. And Candy just nailed it.
Yeah.
And she wrote it like a week. It's like, how do you do that? But it's so on point. It's just, but that's my true north. That's my calling as a not only a pastor, but just a man. And guess what? When I do that, I'm a better husband, better dad. better civic human being when I spend my unhurried time with God. So, but that's really my true north.
I love it.
Those words
You know what? We're going to put that song in the notes for the podcast. I think people would love it.
They're going to love it.
Yeah.
It's a great song. Thank you, Candy.
Well, thank you so much, Chris.
Hey, Pete,
I
thank
know
you
you're
so much.
super busy, so
No,
thank you for coming out.
You've been. It's been awesome to pray with you, to see your journey, to walk with, to just see how you minister to people, how you love people, how you encourage people, how you pastor people. Been a great joy. So thank you for the deposits that you've made in our lives too.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you for joining us for another Sidewalk Conversations, and we'll see you next time.